California edition. My name is Bret Pomerance. Glad you're still with us today. Our guest is Bret Lockett. He is a professional football player. He's played for the Cleveland Browns, the New England Patriots, but he is from Southern California. We are proud of his success. He started in Diamond Bar, California, not far from where we are today. Talk to me. How did a good boy from Diamond Bar wind up in New England and Cleveland?
Well, you know, it's just where life takes us sometimes. You know, I'm definitely a California guy at heart, you know, but I definitely adjusted to the East Coast well. So
I can't imagine what it must have been like for you to have grown up in Diamond Bar and then play for UCLA. I mean, honestly.
It's, you know, in my eyes, it's a dream come true. You know, my family are Trojan fans. So
right. I went to USC, so I'm just saying.
My mother went to USC,
yeah,
so.
But be that as it may, it's all Southern California. It's all
Right,
Los Angeles.
Right, but I mean, it's one of the you know, the best schools in the country and in the world. And you know, the athletic program is extremely talented and a legacy there. So it was an honor.
You were at UCLA 2005 to 2009. I'm trying to think. How did UCLA do those years?
My first year, we actually went 10-2. That's when we almost, you know, we lost to SC
Okay.
when they had Reggie Bush and all those
10-2,
guys.
not bad.
Not bad at all.
No complaints
there. Not bad
there.
at all. You know, and then after that, it was all kind of downhill. But
Right.
I enjoyed my time there.
So you play safety,
Yes.
and you actually have a goal to make kids safer. And you are giving back, and you have started the Bret Lockett Looking Forward Foundation.
Correct.
Bret, why are you doing this?
Well, you know, a man by the name of Benjamin Disraeli, he was a prime minister, you know, in the UK. And I believe it was 1867. But what he said is, you're not, the greatest good that you can give to a person is not just giving them gifts, but actually revealing them their own gifts. And that's the whole reason why I wanted to start the Bret Lockett Looking Forward Foundation. You know, it's all about giving people the opportunity that they didn't have, because a lot of kids in the inner cities, a lot of kiddies, you know, in poverty don't have these opportunities. And I want to give them what I was given at Diamond Bar growing up.
It is interesting because Diamond Bar is a well-heeled community.
It is.
So I think it's fair to say you didn't grow up in kind of the traditional urban setting. But that being said, I mean, giving back is giving back. Part of the foundation is to help kids look forward, but I do want to talk about one element of your involvement, and that's been in trying to prevent bullying. And it's interesting, I look at you, and when you told me that you had been a victim of bullying yourself, I thought, and I said, who's going to bully you? But the reality is bullying is alive and well at all levels.
It is.
How is, you know, having been a victim of bullying informed your involvement both with, I know you were involved in the No Hate campaign, as well as the Bret Lockett Looking Forward Foundation?
You know, the thing about bullying is when you're affected by it, it almost changes the way you live life. You know, everybody's, you know, they have their own experiences, their own circumstances that shape who they are when they end up being adults. And at a young age, when you're bullied, it really, it makes you look at yourself in a different way.
I mean, I face those challenges as well, and I have to say, during that time, you know, there's a sense that you're under siege.
You are.
Literally, you feel like you're under siege at all times because you never know at any moment verbal assaults can really hit you.
Right.
And sometimes those can be more damaging than a punch.
It is, you know, and, you know, everybody knows that words could be some of the most hateful and demeaning things in life. And, you know, I was a victim of it, you know, from starting at 6, and it really didn't end till, you know, I mean, it still hit me in college, you know. So it's just something that I'm really adamant about and really passionate about. And it's an epidemic that's going on, you know, cyberbullying, and
well, that can be amongst the worst.
That's, you know, it's huge right now.
It's anonymous.
You know, and I'm just really a person that does not like these type of things, and I'm putting my foot down.
I'm glad to hear that. And I want to also talk about the Looking Forward Foundation. I think it's the 3rd year you've had your football camp, is that right?
That's correct.
We just had our 3rd anniversary of it in June. You had none other than Snoop Dogg as one of your ambassadors. He, you know, it's funny, you know, I've followed his career for quite some time, and you know, he's not so bad. I mean, you know,
Snoop is a great guy. He really is, you know, and he has his youth league. You know, they have 10 teams, and you know, the thing that really brought me, you know, closer to Snoop with is that playing Pop Warner and Junior All-American football, they have weight limits, and a lot of kids that I knew weren't able to play football because they were overweight.
Overweight.
And the thing is, you know, when a kid can't play football, you know, and he wants to do that, that might be the only thing he wants to do. So now, you know, he's forced to find something else to do with his time, you know, whether it's productive or non-productive, you know, there's nothing really good that's going to come out of that. And Snoop's league has no weight limit. You know, he has certain rules to where they'd have to play the line if they're a certain weight. But, you know, he embraces all kids, and that's what really, you know, brought me to Snoop.
Yeah, so tell me more about your camp.
My camp, you know, we do a one-day camp. This is, like you said, the third year.
In
Diamond Bar.
Diamond Bar.
Yes,
I mean,
Diamond
you've
Bar
come
High
home.
School. Yes,
You've
I've come home. You know, that I love that school, and that's, I believe, you know, the school that really taught me who I am and instilled the drive and the you know, the aspirations I have to be successful. So I wanted to give back to that school. You know, it was ages from 6 to 14, and you know, we actually, this year was the first year we decided to add cheerleading to it, because we felt that,
not bad,
you know, we need women in our community to learn and be productive as well. And we also had women who were in the football camp. You know, one of the best girls that were there, I'm sorry, one of the best players that were there was a girl. So
well,
I was very inspired by that.
It can be hardcore. My daughters play soccer, and let me tell you, you don't mess with them.
My little sister plays soccer,
you don't
so
mess with
of
them.
course.
I want to get a sense from you what it must have been like going back to Diamond Bar. I mean, you got to be quite the icon there. I mean, how many Diamond Bar graduates? I mean, there may be others wind up playing professional football.
Yes, it's a good, humbling experience when you get to go back, because you know, sometimes when you get taken to such a height,
right,
it's always a beautiful experience to come back down and remember where you came from.
And you're young enough, I would think, that some of the teachers that were there when you were there are still there.
They're still there.
I mean, what do they say when they look at you and think, God, that's a good old Bret Lockett. He's playing professional ball.
They can't believe it, you know, and I'm just happy that I can come back there and touch those guys, because I mean, it's almost like, you know, they're my father and I'm their son, you know.
So tell me about touching the children. You know, you've done this for 3 years in a row. When you walk up, when Snoop Dogg walks up, when other professional athletes or media stars walk up, what are you seeing in the eyes of these children? I mean, are you getting through? Do you feel like the message is coming through?
You know, I was actually talking to this with my good buddy Eric Cohen. We actually just hooked up with the In Play Foundation, fighting against childhood obesity. And what he was saying is that it's just such a different element when you bring an athlete or a celebrity in. You know,
for better or for worse, but you're right.
You know, and sometimes it's kind of sad, but that's just the world we live in right now.
But look, I mean, if the athlete, the celebrity, is a voice for positive change, it's hard to deny that power.
Right.
And why not use that power for good?
Exactly, and use the platform that you have to actually inspire and empower these kids. You know, and the look they have in their eyes is just all attention. I mean, I know, you know, I have a younger brother, I have a younger sister, and I know that they're
much younger.
21 and 17.
Oh, so they're young.
Yeah, they're younger, and you know, when you step into a classroom and these kids' eyes just light up and it's just all attention, there's no other, you know, feeling like it.
Any stories, any moments for you? You know, when you were at the camp and a kid approached you, or you saw a breakthrough, anything like that?
You know, the biggest thing that I've enjoyed, you know, this is the third year, and seeing kids from the first 2 years still come to this third camp. And, you know, I have, you know, a kid that I call H2O because the first camp, all he wanted to do was drink water. Okay. So I'm like, come on, you got to run around, you got to go tackle somebody. But we called him H2O. He's a great football player, and you know, I'm still good friends with his family, and they post Facebook pictures of him, and it's just great to see these kids. You know, it's almost like the same feeling we were talking about when teachers, you know, you get to go back and teachers see you. So I'm happy to be able to do this.
So the foundation is fairly new. Where do you plan on taking it next?
It's one of those things to where, you know, the opportunities are endless. So, I mean, I want to start small. You know, my ultimate objective is to be able to fund a whole football camp for kids who don't, or I'm sorry, a summer camp for kids who can't afford it, an 8-week summer camp.
Talk to Snoop. Partner up with him.
Right.
He's doing something right.
And I think that would be something that a lot of kids would enjoy. I went to a summer camp, and you know, when I was younger, that really
it is powerful. My daughter
it's huge.
Swoon over summer camp.
Yes,
it's powerful. Bret Lockett, I want to thank you for joining us, and thank you for your foundation and the work you're doing for the kids of Diamond Bar and all of Southern California. He is Bret Lockett, professional football player. My name is Brad Pomerance. We thank you for watching Charter California Edition. California edition. My name is Bret Pomerance. I'm glad you're with us today. Our guest is Chris Sturdivant. He is with the National Notary Association, and I am pleased to have him with us because we know here in California we have been ground zero for much of the mortgage foreclosure crisis. And so Chris is here to talk to us about the genesis of that crisis and what the National Notary Association is doing and has done to try to fend off that misery that we have faced over the last few years. Chris, thanks for joining us. We appreciate it. Before we start to talk about the crisis and getting out of the crisis, what's a notary?
Well, a notary is a public official whose main duty is to witness execution of a document to ensure that the person who's signing it is indeed the person who is supposed to be signing it.
It's that simple. It's just that basic.
Yeah.
But it dates back thousands of years, this notion of notarizing.
Right. I mean,
give us a little history lesson.
Well, the history of notarization goes all the way back to the Roman Empire. In fact, even when Columbus came to America, he had a notary on his ship.
That's amazing. So I want to talk about this concept of robo-signing, because we keep hearing that part of the reason why we've had this foreclosure crisis is because the lenders, the banks, engaged in robo-signing. What does that mean?
Well, essentially, robo-signing is really a term that the media coined to it.
Okay, it's our fault.
But essentially, it was the process that bank employees utilize in executing foreclosure documents in order to push a file or a loan through the foreclosure process faster.
It's that simple.
Yep.
And what is wrong with that per se?
Well, essentially, when a bank employee is executing a foreclosure document, they're required to ensure that the information on that document is indeed accurate. They're also required to sign that document in front of a notary and take an oath.
And were they doing that?
No.
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 That was the problem,
Yeah,
is they were not notarizing these. And as a result, we saw foreclosures move forward that maybe should not have.
Exactly, and certainly our nation's land records were jeopardized in terms of the integrity of the documents.
Wow, it's serious.
Yeah.
It's very serious. I understand that a woman named Linda Green is relevant in this story. Who's Linda?
Well, essentially, Linda Green is a woman who was employed by a document execution company.
Okay.
And she became an officer or vice president of more than 14 mortgage companies. And what's interesting about...
Does she even know that?
Probably not.
Okay.
But essentially, this document company hired hundreds of people to execute her signature on documents to push it through the foreclosure process faster. And what's interesting about that is Linda Green was specifically chosen because the name Linda Green was short, efficient, and easily forged.
So give me a sense of the scope of this robo-signing crisis. Was it as big as we in the media said it was?
Well, essentially, it started off as a contested foreclosure. A lawyer figured out how to delay the foreclosure of his client's property, but it extended into a review of each lender's process, and ultimately culminated in, I believe, the fall of 2010, where there were moratoriums issued nationwide to halt foreclosures.
Yeah. Now, as I understand it, I believe in California, the Homeowners Bill of Rights was signed. I believe that's a California law, not a federal law, which prevents robo-signing. Is that accurate, or is it also federal?
Well, the California bill would apply to California. I mean, much of the legislation that's been put into place by bank examiners and also the Attorney General settlement that we'll talk about in a little bit,
yes.
Certainly addresses the notary aspect and the robo-signing, but there are also other important issues related to the loan servicing area that
Well,
are
let's talk
addressed
about the national mortgage settlement. You mentioned it. I believe it was 49 states entered into a global settlement with several large banks. I think it was $25 billion, is that right?
Yes.
And California, as the biggest state in the union, got a very significant chunk of that. Talk us through that.
Well, essentially, there were 49 state attorney generals and 5 of the largest mortgage lenders in the country came to a settlement where an exchange of $25 billion was made in exchange for no further prosecution for the wrongdoings of the improper foreclosure process. So there were many aspects of the settlement and requirements, one of which addresses the notary process.
So yeah, let's talk about that. How does the National Mortgage Settlement play into notaries, the National Notary Association?
Well, essentially, in the past, notaries were always commissioned by their states. And every state has a different process.
Right.
And in most states, there's no qualification criteria for an individual to become a notary. There's no education process. There's no testing component, similar to what you might expect from like a real estate agent or a mortgage loan officer. Right. And so what this is going to do is ensure that the employees of large banks and people working within the mortgage servicing space who are notarizing documents are going to meet a standard that is going to be above and beyond the state requirements and include a qualification criteria to it.
So what are California's requirements? Or does it matter anymore because now the feds have a Uber requirement?
Yeah. Well, California is by far the most stringent state for a notary to become commissioned.
Is that true?
The state is going to put the notary through a 6-hour education course, a continuing education course every 4 years. They'll put the notary through a background screening, including a fingerprint search. So it's by far the most stringent. Most states, you just simply fill out an application and send in a check to the state, and that's it.
So I understand that you've recently launched a trusted notary program. Could you tell us about it, and how does that impact us?
Well, essentially what our Trusted Notary program does is we work with corporations nationwide, mostly financial services institutions, and we're helping them build a very safe notary program internally that will not only protect the consumer, but also protect that notary employee who's just performing the notarizations on behalf of their employer.
And give us a sense, you know, I've refied my home a few times, so it's more difficult now, that's another conversation. You know, this person shows up at our house to notarize documents. I mean, look, I feel safe, I generally feel safe, but what should we expect, you know, just to make sure that everything is on the up and up? Because the last thing we want is that there be an issue with the notarization. Again, I'm not suggesting any, but you know where I'm going.
Right. Well, ultimately, our organization is looking to increase the professionalism of the notary public. And so when that notary shows up at your doorstep, they should be dressed appropriately in a business type fashion. They should be able to present their identification to say that they are who indeed they say they are.
Sure.
And there should be some communication prior to that appointment being made between the loan officer, the title insurance company, the escrow company, the notary, and the consumer, so that everybody's aware of the process and who will be showing up at the doorstep.
I mean, it's always been very professional. I've actually been very impressed how, in some ways, they're more professional than other people I'm dealing with through the loan process. Do you feel as if we've gotten to a point where we can trust the mortgage process, the validity of the mortgage process? Have we turned the corner? Because I mean, the last few years have been brutal.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think if you look at where the default rates are of mortgage loans being originated today, they're significantly lower than where they were in the vintages from 2003 to 2006, where a lot of the troublesome loans were originated. Ultimately, that's what we're trying to do, is if we can bring trust back into our mortgage finance system here in the United States, will eventually drive down that cost of funds for the consumers.
So I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you, as we conclude, if you want to become a notary, what can you do? I mean, it does seem like a job that is one that can bring in a decent income, flexible hours, and some respectability.
Certainly. It's a great way for an entrepreneur to earn a living and even moonlight from their existing day job.
True.
So with some simple training and a qualification process that will vary from state to state, that notary will be able to deliver a service to the consumer after hours or on weekends, typically times that aren't convenient for a consumer to go to an escrow office to execute their loan documents, and generate a pretty good income for themselves.
Do you know the process in California? What needs to be done?
In terms of becoming a notary?
Yeah.
Oh, sure. Certainly the notary has to go to a location and take a 6-hour training course. They submit their fingerprints and some passport photos with their application. Upon passing their examination, the notary takes a bond, surety bond, down to their local county courthouse, and they take an oath and file that bond, and they're ready to go.
Off you go. Okay, what's the website?
It's www.nationalnotary.org.
His name is Chris Sturdivant, right?
That's right.
He is with the National Notary Association. My name is Bret Pomerance. Stay safe, keep your mortgages above water, and thank you so much for joining us on California Edition. Welcome back to California Edition. My name is Brad Pomerance. I'm glad to introduce you to Heidi Chebatah. She is a senior investigator with the Riverside County District Attorney's Office, and she is part of a program that is so important for families, for children, really for anyone who is living in the region. It's a program that so many counties can learn from. It's called the Riverside Safe Program, and it focuses on sexual assault felony enforcement. There are 3 divisions, but you're focused on the SPIDER group. What is the SPIDER group, Heidi Chebatah?
The SPIDER stands for Sexual Predator Internet Decoy Enforcement of Riverside. We are an internet-based team. We do decoy operations. We also investigate any crime involving the internet and a child in Riverside County.
I have 2 daughters, 10 and 8. My 10-year-old especially is just becoming interested in the internet. It is scary, it is frightening. I want her to be able to explore this new frontier. There's so much one can learn from the internet.
Yes.
But it's amazing just the pop-ups can scare you off. Talk to me about what you are doing to protect our sons and daughters.
Well, we do take, in Riverside County, we take a proactive approach as well as a reactive approach. We do go online in an undercover capacity to try to bring out the predators that are online that are trying to get at our children. And we also respond to referrals from the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children back in Washington, D.C. They're an international, group.
It's a wonderful group. I've done stories about them.
They're amazing.
Just terrific work.
They're amazing, and they are on the front line to help us protect our kids.
I understand that you've worked on a national level. I recognize you because I love To Catch a Predator series, and you are on that series helping Chris Hansen, I believe. And it is amazing, and forgive me for sounding so sophomoric, if that's the word, how stupid these people are. I mean, I can't believe that they troll the internet and actually think that they can get away with this.
That's how strong their desire is. That's how strong the draw is, yes. Because every predator that I've ever arrested in a decoy operation has asked me, are you a cop? Every single one. I've never had one not ask that. I've had them tell me, I can't talk to you right now because I'm watching To Catch a Predator and I'm freaked out. And then the very next day, they'll come back online and they'll continue to talk.
So what I want to do is speak with you about tips, because that, I think, is what's important for you to give us insight. You actually kindly, and I thank you for this, gave me this. It's not a DVD or a CD, it's something even better.
Yes.
What is this?
It's called Computer Cop, and it's a parental monitoring software. You just put that into your computer, run it off your drive, and it goes through and it starts looking at your computer for any images that your children are looking at or have possibly put on the computer themselves, what websites they're going to. If they're engaging in conversations that are inappropriate, you can monitor that. It has keyword flags, so you can set it up that if your children are entering certain keywords into the computer, it's going to send you an email to notify you that your children is checking these things out that you are specifically concerned about. It doesn't download anything onto your software, onto your program, so you're not taking up any of your memory.
I wouldn't mind taking up my memory, though. I mean, honestly, these are our sons and daughters.
Yes, and this is a tool, you can use it on multiple computers. You could take this, and if you have 5 computers in your house, you can use the one disk.
How can we get this?
You can contact us through our website, which is www.rivcosafe.org, RIVCOSAFE.org.
Will you deal with people outside of Riverside County?
You know what? It would, to say no.
Exactly. I'm glad you.
We have a limited supply.
Okay, fair enough.
And also we do a lot of presentations at schools to any social group, church group, Boy Scout group, anybody who would like an internet safety presentation. We provide these. They only go to the parents. We don't give them to children.
You actually spoke with me about iPod Touches.
Yes.
I got my daughter's iPod Touches. I thought it was a nice mid-step before they actually get an iPhone, whatever brand, a smartphone. But there's some concerns with iPod Touches.
Yes.
Tell me.
An iPod Touch, much like a phone, the phone has all the apps and has the webcam and the texting abilities. But parents always look at their phone bill to see who their child's texting. Because if their child deletes their messages, you can still look at the phone bill to see who they're texting, times, messagings. If they're sending messages back and forth, they may not see the message, but there's a history of it. With an iPod Touch, there is no history like that. The child can take the iPod Touch anywhere that they have internet access, and there's a lot of free Wi-Fi available. And with that, there's apps that for texting, webcamming, all of it. You can actually even set it up to act as a cell phone. And the webcamming can be quite scary. You've described for me how children, teenagers will use the webcam to depict true-to-life sexual situations. Yes. And that is the last thing we want to see. How do we, though, speak to our children about these potential predators without either scaring them and or still wanting them to get the benefits of the World Wide Web? It's the same, I think, when you try to educate your child about sex. You start young, with when they're younger, with small ideas, and as they get older, you have to have open dialogue, and you have to explain that there are bad guys that are on the computer that are looking, and they'll pretend to be your age, and so you set boundaries. Things like in the computer has to be in a main living place. Same thing with an iPod Touch. If it's not somebody that you would bring home into our house to have dinner with mom and dad, somebody that we know, then that's not somebody you should be engaging in conversations. What about Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, whatever it may be? They all have a valid. I have a Facebook account. Sure. I have a 16-year-old son. He has one. We monitor it closely, and I've had a lot of parents say, well, I don't know how to use Facebook. Well, learn. Exactly. You need to learn. Not necessarily because you want to Facebook yourself, but because that's how you know what your child's doing. And don't just look at the Facebook from a friend's perspective, because they hide things. They can block messages. And that's one of the things that we teach in our presentations, is to use your security settings. But those can be used against parents as well. So you need to have their login. You need to know their password, their email. So if you have their login, you will have complete access. There's nothing they can do once you have their login. They can delete messages. But you can go in and you can see the private messages. Right. You can see the things that they're posting that they're blocking from your view that you can't see as a friend. Now, I'm not a big fan of texting, and I'm talking about traditional texting from phone to phone. I think it's a big time waste. It's amazing to me how much time these teenagers can spend texting absolutely irrelevant information. But some would argue there's a safety element to it, that it allows you to, especially, me, if for example, I'm busy and I'm not to be able to talk, so I want to be able to text my daughters. That being said, what would you offer in terms of suggestions to keep texting in a safe format? Again, it's a communication with your children. You have to know who they're texting. I look at my son's phone. He knows that I'm going to look at his phone. If I see messages that I don't think are appropriate, we'll have conversations about it. You can certain phone companies let you limit your texting, which is good. It can be dangerous if your child decides that they can't control their text, and you can end up with a really large bill. In our final moments, Heidi, if you were to offer 1, 2, 3 pieces of advice, one piece of advice, whatever it may be, what would that be? Pay close attention to who your children are talking to. Look at their Facebook page from their perspective. Keep an eye on their cell phones. Keep an eye on their iPod Touch. Anything that they can communicate that has internet access. Their iPads, a Kindle Fire has internet access. My daughter, Kindle Fire. Oh. They have less apps than the others. I have the Kindle Fire. She just has the Kindle. See, so the Kindle, okay. There's still Facebook access, but the Kindle Fire has the camera and things, or not the camera, but has the other apps. Right. You have to be in tune with what your children are doing. I got it. Heidi, thank you so much for joining us. Her name is Heidi Chebatah. She is a senior investigator with the Riverside County District Attorney's Office. My name is Bret. Pomerance. Thank you so much for watching Charter California Edition.